So this is just a little addendum to some of the ideas that come out of 3.5. And I want to help us think about going backwards. In other words, if I know the zeros, how do I use that to get to my polynomial? Like all of our work, a lot of our work so far has been, we start with a polynomial, factor it, factor it, factor it, find zeros. We're going to try and go the other way. So I'm going to say I have something of degree 3. And what that means is it's going to be x to the third power. And the most that I'll have is 3 zeros. So let's say my zeros were 2, 3, and 5. Think about where those come from. I'll make it -5 just to mix it up a little bit. X minus 2, because if I plug in a 2, that makes a 0. X minus 3, plug that in, it makes a 0. And x, see, this is a -5, so it's really x minus -5, which is x plus 5. Because when x is -5, I plug it in, that gives me 0. That would be my polynomial in factored form. And then we try and get it into polynomial form, just, regular x cubed, blah, blah, blah. So what we'd have to do is multiply it out. So, like, I'm going to multiply these two together. There's several ways to multiply. This is a nice little easy way. X minus 2, that would be the length of one of the sides. X minus 3 would be the length of the other side. And then you're just finding the area in here. So x times x is x squared. X times -2, -2x. X times -3, -3x. -3 times -2 is +6. So these two right here combine to make x squared, combine some like terms, minus 5x plus 6. And that's multiplied by x plus 5. And now I just keep going in my multiplication. So like now I have to multiply this by this. I could do it in this rectangle model again, this area model. X plus 5, I'll make that this side, x and 5. And this has 3 terms in it, so I'm going to split it into 3 parts. X squared, -5x and 6. And same thing, just going to multiply everything by everything. So x times x squared is x cubed. -5x times x, -5x squared. 6 times x is 6x. Keep going. 5x squared. -25x. Should have made my boxes bigger. And 30. And now I can combine some like terms. I have an x cubed. Here's some x squareds. 5x minus 5x. Oh, those cancel each other out. So no x squareds. -25x plus 6x. That's, I think, -19x. And then this is a 30 plus 30. So there's my polynomial that would have these zeros. And so notice like our problems that we've done is we've started with this usually, use some synthetic division to take out the pieces to find the zeros. Now we're going the opposite way. We get the zeros, we pound on them through to get here. So I told you that to tell you this. Our zeros don't have to be real numbers. So let's do another one where we have a degree of 3. And I'm going to tell you the zeros. I'll make one of the zeros 1. I'll make one of the zeros 2 minus I. And now, one of the things that I know is that if 2 minus I is a 0, its conjugate has to be a 0. So if 2 minus I is 1, 2 plus I is 1 as well. Degree is 3, there's my 3 zeros. So let me set this up, just like in this one, where I took my zeros, and I said, I'm just going to go x minus one of my zeros, x minus my other 0, x minus my other 0, minus a -5 is +5. Do the same thing with these zeros. So I can just say x minus that 0 multiplied by x minus that 0. And then same thing here, x minus that 0. And now what I need to do is multiply these things out. And before I do that, I'm going to deal with this negative. I'm going to distribute that negative into there. So this is still an x minus 1. And so notice that this becomes x minus 2 plus I. This becomes x minus 2 minus I. And I'm going to multiply everything out. And I could multiply them in any order I want. it's going to save me work if I multiply these two together, because a lot of terms are going to drop out there. So let me set that part up for some multiplication. And I'm going to do it with my rectangle again. And again, multiplication, like length times width equals area, I'm just going to do that here. So this has three terms, x minus 2 and an I. So x minus 2 and an I. And then this one, same way, I have x minus 2, negative 2, and then minus I. So let me start to throw some pieces together here. X times x is x squared. Negative 2 times x, negative 2x. X times I is just xi. My next piece, x times negative 2 is negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Negative 2 times I is just negative 2i. Keep going. Negative I times x, negative xi. Negative 2 times negative I is, negative times negative is positive, positive 2i. And then this last one, I times negative I, it's going to give me a negative I squared. Remember, I squared is negative 1. So it's a negative negative 1, so it's a positive 1. So remember, all this work is multiplying these two factors here together. I'm still going to have to multiply my answer by x minus 1. Let me see what I have so far. X minus 1 still along for the ride. Sorry, make it so you can see it. And combine some like terms here, I have an x squared. If I look at my x's, I have an xi and I'm negative xi. Those are going to make a 0 if I combine them. I have a 2i and a negative 2i. That will also add to 0. Negative 2x minus 2x is minus 4x. 4 plus 1 is 5. And then if I want to multiply this one out, I could just set it up again so that I have an x and a negative 1. X squared minus 4x 5. And multiply it out and get my answer. Okay, I hope that's helpful.